I'm about to go to the airport to see my father, who is coming all the way from Virginia. Literally halfway across the world, all the way across the world. 12-hour time difference. And I'm just so excited. I missed him so much. My mom was going to come, but she has to take care of my grandma, who lives with us, who's lived with us. And so it's kind of sad. I wish my brother and my mom were coming to. It's always been their dream to come back to Vietnam with all of us. Well, my mom and I come back to Vietnam, and my brother. So my dad is here. I'm about to go pick him up. He should arrive at 12. So we are going to the orphanage today, my orphanage that I was adopted from 22 years ago. And so my dad and I have actually got some things to bring to the children there. And some chocolate pies and cookies. This is really stinky fruit, but it's really good. It's very interesting taste. Some games, some learning games. Sorry. Alphabet blocks, English learning games, Thin Mints. Ooh. Some more learning books, Twister. So super nervous. I'm so nervous. It's something that I've been wanting to do since I was a kid, and so. Since I realized that I was not the same race as my parents, and so this is big for me. This is really, I'm really nervous.
Despite our freedom to choose where we go from our original circumstances, we still base our perceptions of the world on our experiences, and perception is reality. The premise is we knowingly or unknowingly choose the structure we build ourselves into. Given the base we're provided with, coming from a country which was and still is recovering and developing after its centuries of warfare, has always influenced my perception of myself and my fortunate turn of circumstances. I've seen the world in the past 22 years with an uncalled for contempt and bitterness. I saw myself as undeserving for being so easily placed in an ideal situation of loving parents and immense opportunity. In turn, I treated myself and others with extremely high expectations. And with high expectations can only come disappointment and frustration. I built myself with a hard exterior with a very vulnerable interior, resentfully detached yet terribly fearful of allowing anyone emotionally close, even my family. Returning to my orphanage, where I lived for the first 9 months of my life, initially made my sense of intense guilt and unworthiness resurface. There were a number of toddlers and disabled children in the part of the facility we visited, where we handed out candies and cookies, making me feel even worse. A cookie won't change anything significant in their life. I felt like I had come back to show them what they could never have. My dad teared up multiple times during our time at the orphanage. However, I felt detached and didn't really speak throughout the entire duration in the facility. But it wasn't in an indifferent way, but rather as an effort to not emotionally express the pain and resent I felt towards myself my whole life. I see it as a protective mechanism ingrained in myself to do when I'm placed in an emotionally stressful situation. It wasn't until I was back in the administration office that I expressed my guilt to my adoption agent, who was also adopted and had chosen my brother and I for my parents through an organization called MAPS. It was then that I started hyperventilating and sobbing. She looked me in my eyes, her eyes filled with tears, and firmly told me to stop feeling guilty, that this was my destiny, and this was why she can't leave Vietnam because there is still so much to do. She held my face as we both sobbed, telling me, no more guilt. Since then, I've noticed myself not feeling the weight of unworthiness drag me down as heavily. I'm growing into the perception of appreciation for the opportunity to live the life I've had, and I have. My experience was humbling, as it should have been, but in a different manner than most would expect. I've always acknowledged my circumstances and have felt at many times that I've taken them for granted. That's not humbleness. Being humble is having an understanding of where you come from, valuing your growth, and implementing action to advance the conditions and opportunities of those who were in your position. And that is what I'm building myself with from now on. I will no longer allow myself to invest my energy into self-pity and resentment. I will no longer be fearful of letting others in. I will no longer let myself feel ungrateful. I am deserving of the love I receive. I'm enough for myself and those I surround myself with. I'm worthy to be a wonder of greatness.